The crypto market is about to go through its craziest phase yet. And today, we'll be discovering and discussing where exactly a good moment to sell will be, or rather, at what prices for what different cryptocurrencies with what strategy. Step number one is realizing when a good time to sell historically has been. Well, if we're taking a look at Bitcoin, which is the chart in front of me, we basically realize that it's about a 4-year cycle. 3 years of up, 1 year of down, where prices go down 80, 90%, something like that. It's happened time and time again, and we still expect that similar sort of pattern to continue with, again, for example, the 2017 cycle ending, let's just say, beginning of 2018, right? Then going down for about a year, something like that, until the beginning of 2019. Then going up from the beginning of 2019 all the way towards, in this case here, let's just call it the beginning of 2022. Then from that point on, let's just quickly see, right? Let's just call it from the beginning of 2022, went down for about a year. Let's just say that the end of 2022 was the lowest of the bear market. And then as of this point, we expect, again, the prices to basically continue up for roughly about 3 years. And we place that end level somewhere between, to, keep it a little bit broad, August of 2025 and February of 2026, with my own expectation to be somewhere around October of 2025. So again, that is where we expect the highest level for Bitcoin to hit. And the reason I just said August or so to February is because, theoretically speaking, the best, craziest part of the run, the altcoin season, tends to happen a bit after Bitcoin peaks out, or around the same time, extending a bit further. And usually what kind of drives the market down is the altcoin season going too crazy. People making too much money, people getting too overzealous, thinking it's never going to end, which spirals itself down. Now, if we're now talking about how high these coins can go, I often like to kind of think of it as a rule of 3. If Bitcoin went from $20,000 in 2017, right, we can look at the prices there, $20,000 to about $70,000, about a 3.5x. And then from $70,000, I kind of think is going to do, let's just call it 200,000, maybe slightly less, maybe significantly more. If that is what it's able to do, right now it's basically at a 5x from its 2017 all-time high right now. I feel as if altcoins could do that and more, right? In general, though, the lower down the rankings you go, the better of a multiplier you've got, but also the higher the chance that it actually goes to 0. So what does that mean? Well, if we're taking a look at Ethereum, I think Ethereum will follow along with Bitcoin and be slightly better. But the counter to it is that if the market is not in that upside, and not in the up and up and up, Bitcoin will outperform Ethereum 99% of the time. So again, it's mostly about timing then. In a good market, Ethereum will go up way more than Bitcoin does. And I think overall, you make more money on ETH than Bitcoin. But I think Bitcoin has almost 0% chance of failing, whereas Ethereum has a small chance of failure. And if you go down lower, XRP, for example, I think will outperform both of these cryptocurrencies, but theoretically speaking, has a slightly higher chance to go to 0. I don't think it will. I have most of my money in XRP, so I definitely don't think it will. I'm just stating that it's from looking at the market caps in general, how I think about them. Right, so if we go down lower and lower and lower, there's a pretty high % chance that some of these coins will outperform coins that are higher up in the ranks. But there's also a higher chance that it won't do anything or will end up obsolete. ICP used to be way higher in the rankings, and so were many of the coins in this list. Litecoin used to be number 4 or something like that. Many of the coins that right now have fallen into obscurity were once top tokens. And so it's always a trade-off, right? Now, in general, if I think the beginning of these coins can do about a 3x, I put that as the baseline. I don't think there will be any coin in here that's worth buying if you do not believe it can do more than a 3x. But in general, if it is right now at the 100th level, the 100th, it's about $700 million worth of market cap. I honestly believe the lowest in the proper bull market of the top 100 list, I personally think won't be below 5 billion. I personally think it will be probably even above 7 billion. Again, so on average, a 10x return for most of these coins at the bottom, but it will also be some coins in the third, fourth page, or coins that have not yet, been made. Big companies, if they do big raises, it's hard to get your coin under $1 billion worth of value. But I definitely believe that in peak bull market, the lowest of lowest coins won't be below like $5 billion or so, meaning, generally speaking, I kind of expect many of these coins to pull like a 10xer. And that is, again, kind of like my baseline, as some of these coins can still climb even higher up in the rankings. Theoretically speaking, there's nothing stopping a coin like, I'm just saying something, right? An IOTA here, for example, at $800 million to eventually get to a spot higher up, get to, for example, let's just say 15 billion or so, because you got to realize 15 billion now would place it at number 11. But peak bull market, if SUI were to pull a 7x from here, go from $4 to let's just say $20, something like that. Let's just put something out there, right? Or $30 even. You also got to understand that that might be at almost 100 billion. So again, that is all relative, and I generally speaking believe most of these coins will pull a 10x or so in the bull run. I just always put 3 as the baseline for what I think is almost guaranteed. But again, a 10x, I think most of them will do. And with the leverage that I usually put on my positions, I kind of believe a 20x, something like that, for most people is doable, but it depends a bit on timing. It depends a bit on your portfolio. The less money you have, the more I think easy it will be to make a 20x. But let's talk about a little bit more about my strategy, right? Like exactly what am I doing to sell? Well, there are two main ways. One is by just taking whatever spot I've bought, whatever coins I've bought, and selling them whenever it reached my desired prices, which is different for any coin, right? For example, XRP, I'm just going to be a bit more specific here. XRP, I will still not even consider selling at $10 a coin. It's only a 4x. I think this one would do a minimum of $10, $15, but probably even more than that. It went to $3 in 2017. I think it should have been $10 in 2021. I think it can go to $25, $30 this cycle. But if we stay conservative, a $10, $15 or so, at 10, I'm not even that satisfied. I wouldn't really even sell anything because, well, I don't think it's really worth it risking it selling at those levels since it can go way higher. And I kind of have the same for many of those coins. So I made a strategy for myself. Solana could go to 600, but could also go to 1,000. I basically set up these trading bots. I'll quickly show you. And what they basically do, and this is something I've been sharing for the last few weeks, right? I've been talking about opening them all. Whenever I open them up, I talked about it in a video or in a live stream. We opened them all together. And recently, they've been doing extremely well. You might see losses. What I see is profits in the making, right? Because if we scroll down, I'll just quickly scroll through it a little bit. You'll see that overall, we're up tremendously on the account. And that's primarily because we opened two bigger bots, the XRP bot and Bitcoin bot here, both with $250,000 positions after leverage, that is. And what they're basically doing is they bought in at a certain level at about $2.11, for example, on XRP. Right now it's $2.33. I'm up tremendously on the position, sure. But what I care about mostly is the way I set up this bot, because it's going to buy and sell XRP consistently. Every time the price goes down, it buys. Every time the price goes up, it sells consistently within my range. And so when I think about selling my cryptos, really, for the most part, me personally, I think about how I can set these things up more properly because I kind of want to consistently keep selling over time as the price starts going higher instead of selling everything at once. I think that is good if you have a certain goal to get to, but after you get to a certain amount of money or the position that I'm in, there's nothing I want to sell for. There's nothing I want to have. There's nothing I can click it on, I'm done. Maybe it's a number of money, sure, but the next number that I want to get to is quite far away. I don't think that's going to happen in a poof like that. And even if it was, selling my cryptos to achieve that would still lead me to be like, okay, now I'm going to invest in what? So ultimately, then I would sell to buy back in cheaper. But ultimately, if I've got strategies that are printing me money throughout time, then why would you, right? Then it comes back to the idea of, no, I got to just consistently cash out sums, which one of the easiest ways is what I've devised here, this plan. And again, this has been proven to work over the last 3 or so years. My friends have been all doing it. And I've always been hesitant to show it here. I'm thinking, maybe not. Maybe it's too difficult for people. But then I realized, you know what? On this specific platform, Payonex, all the links are down below, by the way. First link, if you sign up, you might get yourself $100 just for signing up also. The second link is for claiming yourself some free bonuses. You can just find it all out with the links down below. And then the other links are just for copying my bots exactly to the dot. Just press the button and it'll literally just copy everything. You just got to put in how much you want to invest. And again, I'm not saying it's risk-free, but for me, this is exactly what it's going to do. I've opened them all up. If the price starts tanking hard, right? Some of these are going down a bit. What I'll do is I'll add more to the investment so I can average my price down. But generally, look at this, right? We went from 74.5 cents to 73.4. Normally, we'd be down $100, but because I opened this a while back, about 8 days ago, it was already able to cash out $50 from our 1500 over time, so that right now my loss is less. So basically, if I had just bought $1,500 worth of ADA then, I'd right now be down 100. But since I bought it then, and I've left it in the bot, it was able to cash out $50 by buying low, selling high, buying low consistently. And let's continue on here. So if we take a look at, for example, some of the more recent ones, my $10,000 to $1 million challenge, right? You might think, Dusty, you're down $6,100. That is super, super bad. To me, right, with the way I've set up my trades, here we've got a $350,000 XP trade. It's down $32,000, something like that. This was down $100,000 before. But between being down $100,000 to being up $20,000 like yesterday or 2 days ago to being now down 30, I didn't gain anything. If that was in this position, right? If that was in this bot right here, the XRP bot, let's just quickly find it again. I would have probably made another $40, $50, maybe $60,000 in the meantime. And I realized how much time I've been wasting with all these stupid, just traditional longs. If you think the price is going to go up immediately, longs are the best way to go about it. But if you're unsure, you want to have longer term strategies, or you're not sure when to sell, because that's again a very big part, right? These longs, I know when I want to sell, but it's not soon. So I'm just keeping them open. But to some people, this is very uncomfortable because it's not generally making you profits over time unless you just keep selling, selling, selling. If you're not sure, some strategies which automatically sell can be slightly easier. But again, I would say if you're not sure when to sell, think about a number you want to achieve. Think about a goal you want to get to. And think about, let's say you do get rid of this crypto. What is your next investment going to be? Because ultimately you've got money now, but you got to put that money to work. Are you going to go for stocks? Are you going to go for this, that, this, that? Every single one of them has their associated risk. There's no market that is risk-free. Name it. Oh, but yields are, there's risk. It's not necessarily very high, but the stock market in the US has never failed us, right? There have been crashes, but it's never broken. But now, for example, credit ratings are going down. There's nothing that says it can't ever break, meaning all of a sudden a lot of people lose their money and things go really, really bad. But I keep saying, it's not a 0% chance, right? It's always a non-zero. And so ultimately, when I then also think about a method that also earns a lot, I always get get pulled back into this crypto sphere, which leads me to cash out some of the investment, get some stable coins, and then realize I need to use these stable coins to make even more money because the grind is never ending, but also because there's not really any better methods. I always am a big advocate of diversification. Get yourself some stocks, get yourself some gold, maybe even some silver, maybe some other thing akin to that, just for safety purposes, especially if you get to higher figures of net worth. But in general, I still believe that crypto is the best industry, also because I've spent so much time here, and many of you guys that are watching these videos too, that you've got an edge. If I, in general, look at the audience, not from these videos, but from, for example, shorts that I make or people I speak to in real life, most people that want to enter crypto do so at the absolute worst time, but also they know nothing. So they're buying in with the idea of somebody told me, they don't really want to do the research, want to take the proper steps to get educated, and they have no idea when to buy and sell. If you just have been here for a few weeks, a few months, researched a little bit, and you're watching this video, you have such a big advantage, especially if you've been stacking that for years, that I think it's just very, very easy to make money. And I think that's what traumatizes, what puts them in a spot where they don't do anything. I don't know how you call it. It sedates people because it's just that easy. Literally, take a look at the freaking cycle. It always rinses and repeats. All you got to do, in my opinion, not financial advice, is just buy and shut up and just wait. It'll make you tons of money. In the meantime, things may get really, really bad. I mean, on the short term, we get rejections every now and then. Right now, for example, Bitcoin is facing a triple top. It's interesting to watch, right? But over a few year time span, it's almost impossible to lose. And so if you've got specific targets in mind, hey, I was up 20K, maybe that's my goal. I could have cashed it out, boom. But I don't, right? So that's why I have some of these bots running all the time, because they'll cash out as time progresses. All you got to watch out for is to not get liquidated by adding more margin, which is why you never all in on a bot, never. Even with my challenge, I told you guys before, I might have to add a ton of margin to keep it floating, but But I'm fine with that because the challenge is to turn the 10K into a million, not to only use 10,000 for the challenge. And the same goes for any of these bots. I always say, if you're buying in, you better make sure you got some money on the side to buy the dip to lower your average price. Not because you have to, but because it helps with peace of mind. Because this way, I don't have to ever really watch it too much. It will just keep going on over time. All you gotta watch out for, like I said, is liquidation price. But it would be the same as just buying the cryptos, really, with the additional feature that it buys and sells whenever it can to just get itself some juicier profits. I don't know how better to describe it. Everything becomes way easier, though, if you're just trying to cash out for a farm or something along those lines. But me, with SUI, for example, or no, let's just say Cardano. There's a potential for Cardano going to 5. There's a potential for it going to 3. There's a potential for it going to 7. Nobody out there knows what the exact price will be. All we got to do is, or all we know is, whenever one of those scenarios happens, how we react to it. For me, at $3, I know I'm not that satisfied. So I need, let's say, 5 or 7. But then again, am I going to cash out to Bitcoin? Am I going to cash out to a different coin? Those, to me, are the real choices. Not a matter of, oh, is it going to pump? No, it'll pump. It'll pump significantly. But at what point do I swap ADA for the next runner? Well, it depends on what the season is at, which is why this becomes quite intricate. If it's a season where utility coins really run, XRP, HBAR, QNT, coins of that sort, well, then at some point that's going to flow over to the next thing. You want to sell when obviously the mark is not that high. And what I mean with that is, if it's a season of a specific sort of coin, that usually lasts a pretty short amount of time. If it's a full-fledged alt season, everything's doing well, the targets are way higher. But usually it's targeted by sector, by sector, by sector. Maybe AI coins all of a sudden have a few weeks of craziness where all the coins just go crazy. And then quickly afterwards you realize, hey, everybody's rotating to RWA, and then they rotate into utility coins, and then they rotate into meme coins. That's kind of like a logical little route of sorts. You got to be on there. You got to sell the one to go into the next, and go to the next, go to the next. But also, if you're just holding a full list of 100 coins, you'll see that one area is just underperforming the rest for a while, and all of a sudden that might switch up and switch up and switch up. If you're a proper trader, you could take it from one, put in the other, try to get that rise to put back in, put back in. If you're not, you're just a hodler. The best thing that I can think of here is to just set goals for yourself. In my opinion, not anything is worth holding if you do not think it will do at least a 3x. In the top 100, I don't think there's any coin that I think would do less than that. Except for stable coins, really. But also, if it's more than a 15 to 20x you're expecting, it should not be the main part of your portfolio unless your portfolio is very small. When I say that, I mean, if you have a $15 million portfolio, right? Just pick a crazy number. And you're going for some obscure small meme coins. Whenever I'm talking about these targets, by the way, I'm talking about this cycle, this 2025, 2026, not 10 years out. Everything will probably 20 or 40x in 10 years. If you're talking about, some bigger portfolios and you're expecting a 20x on a small ass coin, it's not worth the risk in my opinion. Just stick to a 2x, 3x Bitcoin long, with 15 million schmeckles. You've got $50 million almost in the position. Bitcoin doubles from here. That's a very, very solid profit. You don't need to stick with the smaller coins to turn into $1 billion because most likely you're not going to be able to cash it out anyway, if you get my drift. So I always think about it from that angle of one cycle. That's all you got to focus on. Don't focus on multiple cycles because every single cycle is different. And in the bear, you'll have a lot of time to rethink your next strategy. If you want to just place money in now and forget about it, then again, those bot type of strategies are quite nice. Research it, look into it. On the opposite side, another strategy is just to buy and shut up, don't do anything anymore. But that's always an option. But at that point, do you really need price targets? You don't. Do you really need, selling things? No, you don't. Because you just see when it happens, right? If your target is, I want to turn $100 into 14 million, ain't nobody gonna be able to help you, right? All you gotta do is just hope luck gets you that you buy the right freaking altcoin. But for the most part, for most people, I think they're looking for, hey, when to sell this cycle? And I'm gonna say September, somewhere along that ballpark's probably good. If Bitcoin is 3x, I'd probably think about it. Theoretically speaking, just starting August, I think more about selling rather than buying. This, in my opinion, the next 3 months or so are still where buying is okay. After that, I wouldn't do it too much. I think only about selling, even if things are looking so good. The only way in which buying is still proper is if you're rotating from one to the other, or again, you have a strategy of that type of sort. If your idea is just, hey, I get some more money, I'll keep buying, you're going to probably buy the top at some point, and it tends to not be worth it. It tends to just be worth to sell because most people regret it. You do not want to sell too early also, but that is, again, why you got to potentially go for the sector play, meaning whatever is hyped up at the moment, you keep your allocation in while you sell others off. You might get unlucky and all of a sudden whatever you sold goes on a second route, a second spurt. That's the risky part of the endeavor. If you are, I think most people will not sell the top perfectly, but 98% of people will sell too late rather than too early. That's what I still think. So from that angle, if your coins have popped off and you're hoping for the second wind, I think if you simulate that over 1,000 times, over 1,000 people, it tends to be a good idea to just sell whenever things are just doing that well. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the matter. So yeah, just basically I just give you my range for when, my range for how much. I think in general, about a 7x across the board for most coins I think is a good target to aim for, but a minimum 3x basically. At that point I think it's quite safe to sell because you've done better than 90% of the people in crypto because they tend to sell when they're at a loss. But then again, you could also wait for some of the outliers, but at that point it might be wise to already sell at least half or so of your position, just so you've cashed out whatever initials you had, because obviously at a 3x, if you sell a half, you get 1.5 times your initial investment, and at that point you're risk-free, you can do whatever you want. I don't think that's too bad of an idea, but hey, you know what? That's about it for my thoughts. Make sure you press the like button if you enjoyed it. If you watched this far, comment bullish down below, just out of excitement. I want to see who watched the videos till the end. And let me know your feedback. Let me know your thoughts about selling all that. I'm interested to see because I've devised this strategy over many, many years. But I think really in my live streams are where I can fully get the strategy down to everybody. In a video form like this, sometimes it still can be quite difficult because every altcoin needs a separate explanation. Every altcoin is a fully different story with a fully different subset of ideas and strategies. A Dogecoin I would sell or trade significantly different than an ADA, which would be significantly different than an exchange coin like a BNB and so forth and so on. But it's just to give you guys some range and some idea. For anybody that's new and has no idea whatsoever, this is what I would think. Yeah, that's about it.